Comes in the name of the Lord. Shalom and welcome to this special edition of Revealing the Truth, the Sleep Project, Winning the Battle for the Night with Faith Blatchford. We are delighted to have her as our guest host for this hour. In our fast-paced world, we see sleep as wasted time, or else we lie awake as anxiety, fear, or distractions run through our minds. That was never God's intent for the night. Without realizing it, we've handed this sacred time over to the enemy. With warmth, compassion, and keen biblical insight, Faith Blatchford reveals that it's during this precious time that God imparts everything necessary for us to be equipped for the day. Without peaceful sleep at night, we're robbed mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually of the resources we need. God created the night and the dark, and He called it good. He dwells in it. The dark does not belong to the devil, so don't let the enemy steal it from you. Here are the tools you need to take back your night to encounter the God of rest and to sleep peacefully the whole night through. Faith Blatchford is the author of Winning the Battle for the Night, God's Plan for Sleep, Dream, and Revelation. She's the founder and president of Age to Come, a nonprofit organization. She's an ordained minister, a graduate of Vassar College, and holds a BA in religion. She travels across the United States and around the world, speaking in churches, schools, and conferences. She's an author as well as a producer of instrumental soaking CDs. Her goal is to be a catalyst for radical, life-changing encounters with the presence of God, whether through preaching, teaching, prophesying, counseling, and coaching or impartation. She joins us on the last Monday of every month at the 12 o'clock hour to host the Sleep Project, Better Nights for Better Days. Faith Blatchford, welcome to your show, The Sleep Project, right here on the Igniting a Nation Broadcasting Network.
Thank you, Eric. It's always a joy. I look forward to this. And, we always have such interesting, stimulating conversations. And I appreciate your interest in your mind and the things that you're looking up even as we speak. It's just fun. So thank you.
It is fun. Thank you for that. We want to be a source of information, education, transformation. Not that my name or your name should be known throughout the world, but His name and
Absolutely.
His plan should be made known throughout the world. And so we're the little I, and He is the big I, the great I am, the one who equips us. And it's amazing to me as we cover so many areas. I actually have a guest coming on tomorrow. It won't shock you, but we made the claim when we launched the network in January 2017 that we would cover whatever contends with the believer we know God contends with. And so we are going to be the show that contends with what contends with you. So on tomorrow's broadcast, we have a guest coming on, which this will not shock you whatsoever, but it will give you a hopefully quite a laugh. I think I lost her intro here, but hold on one second, because she is someone that you are going to want to tune in to. Her name is Sherry Lynn, and she is the author of a book entitled, are you ready?
Yes.
I want to punch you in the face, but I love Jesus. The Ultimate PMS Companion Book.
Oh my goodness. How wonderful.
She says that 80% of women experience this issue of PMS in their life, and the church isn't talking about it. She's a comedian. She hosts a very funny radio show, but we really do contend with what contends with you. And so when they pitched me on this, I said, we cover dreams, visions, miracles, the whole spectrum. We're going to do it. We'll have her on, and we're going to have a good time at it. In the same way we talk about sleep, we have a good time at it. And it's always stunning, and I always like to kind of go back to the very beginning of our conversations that we've had in the past. When we look kind of statistically at how many people are taking something to help them go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like almost 70% of Americans at some point or other are taking a sleep aid of some kind, or they use distractive technology to fill some sound or tactile encounter, thinking that's going to fill the void for them. And they've got it all wrong.
Exactly. I mean, and as I've said throughout in our times, that I never want to put people under any kind of guilt or condemnation. I remember a pastor friend of mine who his sister actually was a very, had some what we would consider heretical views in her belief system. And I was all gung-ho, I was going to tell her you're wrong and this, that, and the other. And he said, Faith, never take away someone's security blanket until they're ready and you have something that's going to replace that. And so I mean, what wisdom. And I think in terms of this whole issue of sleep and sleep aids, until a person is ready and until I can impart to them actually with words and maybe with prayer, something that's going to give them hope and faith and relief, then I'm just going to say, bless you, keep doing what you're doing, but here's some thoughts and here's some truth and here's some testimony, and I'd love to pray for you. So I think but it is such an issue, and it's only getting worse. And that's, one of the things, sort of the topic, you'd ask me, what's the Spirit of God saying to you? And what I keep hearing is rest, rest, rest. And I hear it from all different quarters, people saying, I got to take the month of July off. I'm not doing this, or I'm not going to do all these things. I'm up to here. And so sometimes I think summer, back in the day, when summer had there was this sense of, lazy, hazy days of summer, and life wasn't so complex, and families went on vacation, and kids were home. But we don't even have that anymore. Life we go from season to season, and the stress level, people think, well, the kids are out of school. Oh my God, the kids are out of school. It's just a different rat race. And so the rest aspect is something critical, because the stress level, I was reading an article recently, and stress is the number one issue in people's lives. It's becoming epidemic, and it has such health outcomes negative, just like lack of sleep. But stress is behind the lack of sleep. So that's what, I think is on God's heart, is rest, which is a bigger umbrella than just sleep. And so I thought that's what we could talk about today, is rest from a number of different aspects.
I'm going to give you a couple of just really contemporary examples. This morning we had Peter Rosenberger on for the Caregiver Hour. Mondays are devoted to our regular program lineup, which is all of our featured guests appear on Mondays, with the exception of one that comes on a Wednesday. But all of our Mondays are filled with regular programming like yours, the Sleep Project, Hope for the Caregiver, programs like that. And last week we had on Dr. Timothy Jennings, who is an expert in the aging brain and believes that unless there is a like an Alzheimer's dementia or a Lewy body type of dementia or Parkinson's dementia, that regular onset of dementia, early onset of dementia, meaning before age 65, is preventable. And if you are in the early stages, it's also curable. And this is revolutionary in looking at the aging brain. And there's two key factors. One, of course, being diet. The other one is stress and rest. those two together, stress and rest, are the big contributors towards dementia. And so we're seeing people, more and more people we know being treated for dementia, more and more people we know who are slipping. And the test for dementia is that you not only are forgetful, but you've lost some ability to recognize something or be able to perform some task. So you can't remember that this is called a cup. You know, you say, I need to, what's the name for that? And so when you see that, those are early indicators. But he said that with a proper amount of rest and a reduction in stress, that and nutrition, that you can correct this. Then this morning, Peter Rosenberger just moved his double amputee wife from Nashville, Tennessee. They've relocated to Montana, where the climate is better for her, and the rat race is no longer. Where they live in Montana is a small community compared to Nashville. You know, several, maybe 1,500 people as opposed to 1.5 million, and they're doing that to increase the climate is drier, it's colder, and with her arthritis, which is an outcropping of her amputations and the accident she had, that they're finding that they have less to do, less distraction, less frantic pursuits, and that they can actually stop and breathe and smell things. And they're finding how therapeutic that is. And these are just moments, moments of respite. And what you and I are talking about is really embracing this concept of rest, which even Jesus said, "Come to me, you who are heavy laden and weary, and I will give you rest." What was he talking about? That he was going to prepare a bed for us to lay down? What was the rest that he was promising us that we were going to receive in him?
You know, another place where Jesus talks about, he doesn't use, well, yeah, I guess he does use the word, but he says to the disciples, "Come ye yourselves apart and rest." And the idea was that they had been in their own rat race of ministry, and it had been 24/7 probably. And so he said, let's get away, let's unplug. I mean, they didn't have social media, but it was this idea of stop. And he could tell, I mean, one of the things, I think it's in Proverbs where the instruction is you are to know your flock. And part of what a shepherd does is feels the sheep and knows, do they have a wound, an injury? And I think Jesus, as the good shepherd, could feel in the spirit his disciples, and he knew they're exhausted. I have a level of supply and connection that they haven't reached. And so come and rest. And I think it was physical, and I think it was mental and emotional, as well as spiritual permission that and I think this is one of the problems for Christians, more even than the secular world. I think the secular world is getting this, but in the Christian world, it's if you rest and you say, I'm not doing anything today, people can look at you like, well, you should be serving and praying and reading and heal the sick, raise the dead, cast out demons. Yeah, absolutely. But not 24/7. And it's okay to say, hey, I need to take a nap. I need to unplug my phone or something. And, we talk about rest, and we know for the body, sleep. I mean, that's what we've been talking about. And I don't want to get into all the routine and things you should do and not do to have better sleep. Buy the book and or listen to one of the previous broadcasts, because I think we know what we should do. Whether we do it or not is another topic or another issue. But I think in terms of the body, a nap And I know for me, naps, I mean, it's a three-letter word. Well, if naps, four letters, but it was a four-letter word to me because when I was little, my mother, she was 40 when I was born, and she said I was a handful. And so she needed a nap, and I hated naps. And we would go up into my parents' bedroom. She'd lie down on the bed, turn on the radio to a baseball game, and she was out like a light. And I am in prison with baseball, which is why I've always hated baseball, because I could hear the announcer just droned on and on and on. I knew enough not to wake her up. But for me, naps were a curse. And and then it was something that babies and kids and old people take naps, but adults, people of responsibility and strength, we don't do naps. And yet now, in the secular world, this idea of naps, nap rooms, nap pods, and you're not laughed at if you say, hey, I'm going to go take a few Z's. That we need to look at this again and learn how to nap properly to get the best use of it. And the thing is, now they're doing studies on naps, and the creativity, the productivity. I mean, they've had test groups. So one group at work, they don't get a nap and they keep working, 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 and then see how they perform. And then another group gets to take a nap. And there is a marked difference in their productivity and creativity after just a 10-minute nap. 10 minutes can be a game changer. So this is something, I'm encouraging people, take a nap, have an alarm clock so that you're not worried, oh, I got to pick the kids up and then you can't have an alarm clock, set it. Recommended 10 minutes or 90, that somewhere in between that sometimes can be counterproductive because you wake up kind of groggy and have to have some coffee or something. So set a time, close the blinds, and lie down. And that's another, we were meant to recline as we sleep. So some people now, they're creating desks that are designed so that people can get under their desk and lie down and take a nap. But it's important to be prone in taking a nap. So I'm a napper now, and no shame. And I think we've talked about it. I think you're a napper.
I am a napper. It's interesting because the body tells you what it needs. And if we're not willing to listen to the natural, then what makes us think we're going to pay any attention to the supernatural? If we can't
Exactly.
follow the leading of our own bodies, the most natural thing we're closest to, then how are we ever going to tune our ears in and our spirit in to hearing from the Lord? In this case, and I believe that in this case it's one and the same. When God says it's time to rest, if you push past this, and I've had this in my lifetime, if I don't take the rest, if I don't take the time, I'm going to wind up where He's going to give me a pretty harsh reminder. And that's going to be a sinus infection or something that's going to take me out of commission of my normal routine that I'm not going to be happy about. So I've come to pay very close attention to when God says it's time to rest, then it's time to rest.
Absolutely. And, I think another area where we experience stress and we need rest, and I don't know that I've not heard people talk about this. And so some people may think, I don't like that idea. But emotionally, people are exhausted and stressed. And we need to talk about this and figure out, okay, how am I going to bring rest to my emotions and the stress that, cranked up internally. And so this emotional health, emotional rest is something, and once again, the church has been opposed in a sense. We're strengthened with all might. We know all the scriptures, but we haven't learned, I think, how to protect, in a sense, and honor that aspect of our life, which is the emotional, the EQ. And I think as I was thinking about this, one stressful aspect of our emotional distress is in terms of relationships. And yes, we forgive and all of, I'm not talking about that, but there's this place that we have to learn boundaries, and we have to stop equating enabling with the Christian life. That if you're in constant need and you're drowning, and you pull on me and you expect me to save you every hour, because I'm a Christian, that to me has got to be addressed. Otherwise, emotionally, we will be drained. We will tap out. We will burn out emotionally because we have not given our emotions a rest. And this is something, asking God. Everybody's emotional drain is different, and if you have a colicky baby, you can't just put them in the bed and go off and go for a hike and forget about them. You can't. But asking God, show me how to allow my emotions to have rest. And I don't have all the answers to this. I know God does, and I know if we're in here for the long haul and we want to bring the kingdom, it's going to have to be as we give our body rest, but also our emotions. We have to function from a place of rest emotionally.
We're bombarded on a regular basis with technology. We've got emails, we've got text messages, we check them in the middle of the night. We do what everything is so urgent, so critical, so scheduled, so appointed. It's interesting to me that you would make an appointment with a doctor and he makes you sit there for an extra 30 minutes, and all people do is get agitated. I had a 1 o'clock appointment, and they're up at the desk saying, I had a 1 o'clock appointment, it's 1:30. Well, would that not be an opportunity that you could take to rest? I actually used to love the Reader's Digest because there were always some very comical quotes in there. Every now and then an interesting story, and the only place I ever saw it was a doctor's office. So I made it a point that would be my time to grab a Reader's Digest, and at times even when they call my name and go, well, that was too quick. I'm actually looking at the things, and they're kind of comical stories. I found a way to use it, and you can read things which are not. I'm a talk show host for part of my livelihood, part of my ministry living, so I read a lot of books. So if somebody hands me a book to read, it's kind of like that's work.
Right.
I don't read for pleasure the way I used to. I read for work, and I get a great deal of pleasure out of the books I read for work, but it's not my pastime. It's not, hey, let's go to the beach, load up a bag of books, and sit out there and read. I read 3 books a day in preparation for shows. So that's no longer it's taken on different meaning, and seasons change, and we have to be tuned into that. We're talking with Faith Blatchford, who hosts the Sleep Project, Better Nights for Better Days, right here on the Revealing the Truth on the Igniting Nation Broadcasting Network on the last Monday of every month at the 12 o'clock hour. Today's show is about the concept of rest and how that feeds in to the narrative of if we are rested, then we are more productive. If we are rested, we are more in tune. If we are rested, then we are honoring more of the temple of the Lord, and we can find ways to be renewed, refreshed, and draw closer in prayer, draw closer in our spiritual life through the simple act of rest. It was so important to God, He made it His fourth commandment that we were to take a Sabbath rest, meaning do no regular work, make a sacred assembly. That means meeting with the brethren. That means taking time out. In Israel, a nation which is not a religious country, Jerusalem is a religious city, Israel is a secular country, not a religious country, and on the Sabbath, the country shuts down, businesses close, and people go to the beach, they go on hikes, some go, of course, to synagogue and celebrate it that way in a religious manner, but it is a time of refreshing and renewal so that you're in touch with God's creation. Whether you do that in a pew or you do that on the beach, it is still honoring the Sabbath and setting time aside. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, there are a number of articles that Faith has uncovered which point to the benefits of a rest. And we're going to talk about that when we return. We'll be right back. Not everything that makes the headlines has biblical importance, but many events that happen around the world do, and you never hear about them. Igniting a Nation is pleased to teach Revealing Prophecy every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the Marriott 280 in Birmingham. We will cover worldwide events and insider information that will connect the dots of what's happening around the world with biblical prophecy. If you happen to miss a class, we'll televise each week's class at 10 o'clock Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our social media outlets. Copies of the teachings will also be available to purchase on our website at www.ignitinganation.com. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this special edition of Revealing the Truth, Winning the Battle for the Night, the Sleep Project with Faith Blatchford. Better nights for better days right here on Revealing the Truth on the last Monday of every month at the 12 o'clock hour with Faith Blatchford, author of Winning the Battle for the Night, God's Plan for Sleep, Dreams, and Revelation. Faith, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Faith, when we went on break, we talked about that there have been a number of studies on the benefit of a Sabbath rest. And I want to dig into some of those and some of the discoveries that you made that now people are starting in this modern new millennium to look into something that 5,000 years ago God established as an instruction to honor the Sabbath and to keep it holy. Of course, we know that the Catholic Church changed the Sabbath to Sunday. It was always on sundown Friday to sundown on Saturday, which is still the way it's observed in the Jewish world, and on Saturday in a part of the Christian world that is Sabbath observant. They don't connect the hour, the hour. They connect the day, which is a modern calendar, which we would call the Gregorian calendar, as opposed to the Hebrew calendar, which begins at sundown, which was the story of creation, that it was evening, then morning, and that constituted a day. But what are some of the things that were stunning for you and a common theme that ran through these books?
Well, one, that people are talking about this because, I think that we're always being robbed of God's blessing in one way or another. And this whole issue of Sabbath became a theological argument of when is it? Will the Jews say it's this, the Protestants say it's this, the Catholics say it's that, the Seventh-day Adventists say it's this. And so we get robbed of what God intended because of these theological discussions. And so then we say, well, I'm a Protestant, I'm not a Jew, so Sabbath doesn't apply to me. And it's taken the secular world, once again, to discover, quote, discover the value of it. And so one of the articles, I just read, it was in January, it came out 2019, The Science of Sabbath, How People Are Rediscovering Rest and Claiming Its Benefits. The science of Sabbath. I mean, isn't that, it takes the secular terminology to get our attention about something that God set in stone 5,000 years ago. So there have been a number of studies. One, this was in 2005, National Geographic published this, but it was a study by the National Institute for Aging, and they looked at the lifestyle of people who were in their hundreds, age-wise, and what they discovered, they went and looked at various communities where there seemed to be a gathering. There were more people who were in their hundreds than in other communities. And one of the communities that they found was in Loma Linda, California, at Seventh-day Adventist community. And they found that this group of people, it's diet, but they observe the Sabbath. And so, you see the statistics, and they realize that the Adventists were living at a minimum 4 years longer than those who were not involved in Sabbath keeping and the type of diet, up to 10 years longer. I mean, 10 years is a long time to add to your life just because you unplugged and held one day of the week as a time of rest. So that was one study. Another study, again, this was in 2014, looking at Sabbath keeping, and the result was that the people who kept the Sabbath had better mental health and physical health. And God didn't say, keep the Sabbath and you're going to feel better and live longer. He doesn't have to give us a reason. He's God. And he says, do it. And we should say, yes, I know this is for my benefit. But we found all different reasons, and most of the reasons have to do with toil, work, and money. I mean, I think about the blue laws when I was growing up, that what the game changer was the bottom line and money, and we got to make money, so we got to stay open. And for humans who have a job, I got to keep working, I got to make money. So God knew that with the Sabbath, we were, I think, reaffirming our dependency on Him. That whether it's for money or promotion or whatever, if I can trust Him to shut everything down for one day, that I'm not going to go into bankruptcy, it's one of the most powerful connections we have to God, is total dependency on Him. And one way we do that is tithing, and another way we do that is Sabbath keeping. And so the secular world is having to bring this to our attention. There's a book that I haven't read it, but I'm going to. It's called, these names are so long, Subversive Sabbath, The Surprising Power of Rest in a Nonstop World. And that was awarded a book award this year by Christianity Today. And once again, we have to look around and take note that Sabbath is rising to the top as something we need to pay attention to. There's a man, and some people may be familiar, his name is Devon Franklin, and he's a Hollywood producer. And there's a TV show or something that he's done on miracles that's become quite popular. Right. But anyway, he was on Dr. Oz, and he was presenting this, everybody comes up with kind of a catchy name rather than just keep the Sabbath. So his is the Seventh Day Restart. Now, he happens to be a Seventh-day Adventist. I don't care what he is, I'm just thrilled that he is, as a public figure, is getting our attention, and he believes in this so much that when he was being considered for an internship with Will Smith, the actor, which would have been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, which I think he got, even though he told them up front, I will not work on Sunday. Absolutely, I won't. Well, I mean, in Hollywood, who says that? Who does that? And yet, here's a man who put the dollar as secondary to the Sabbath. It's amazing.
Well, that's been my motto for my life, is that I'm available 24/6.
Yes.
And, it's interesting biblically, and let's use that as our standard, as our model, as we always do. Every author of the Bible was Sabbath observant. Every author. As a matter of fact, Jesus was asked the question, was the Sabbath created for man or man for the Sabbath? Okay. Jesus was the Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath was created for man, for him to be able to spend time. So you're busy all week. You don't take the time out to pray. You don't take the time out to the 3 daily prayers of Judaism. There's a morning prayer, an afternoon prayer, and an evening prayer that are traditionally said, but we become so busy we don't take that time out. We might say a blessing over the food. We might not. We might just wait until Friday night Sabbath dinner and say a blessing. We might not. But we've gotten to be, and God knew that the busyness of life was going to take us away. But if we would just take this Sabbath rest, take this, even the word sabbatical, of course, has its root origin. We want to give our pastors, many are writing into their contracts now, is that at the end of a period of time, I'm going to take a sabbatical period, and you're going to pay me for that sabbatical period. I've earned this time off. It's not a paid vacation. This is a sabbatical.
Right.
If I decide that I want to go spend 3 months in Israel, I'm going to go spend 3 months in Israel. That's my sabbatical period, whatever I do. If I'm going to go climb Mount Everest, then that's what I'm going to do in this sabbatical period. This is going to be my time away from my regular vocation. And it's very interesting that if we look at the cross and we number the 10 commandments along the vertical of the cross, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you'll find number 4 happens to hit the cross piece. Okay? I don't care what your dimensions are, what your scale is. If you number it 1 through 10, you start the bottom. Go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. 4 hits the cross piece.
Wow.
You say to yourself, why? Okay, why do you make that picture? Well, because the first 3 commandments are about our vertical, exclusively vertical. These are our relationship with God. The 5th through 10th commandment are exclusively horizontal, about our relationship with man. Okay? So you have this above, and you have this below. Then you have this cross piece that says that if I take that cross piece and I put it across there, honor the Sabbath and keep it holy, then I am putting myself in a position where I can be vertically right with God, and I can separate myself from man long enough to be able to take a break from the pressures of relationship, of my mother and my father, of the pull of the world, of the temptations, of all the stress and all the strain, all of that, and enter into a rest that will permit me, by design, to maintain a relationship with God and a relationship with man by having this cross piece that's set in place right there to show me a perfect picture of God's design. Okay?
Yeah.
I didn't make this up. The cross that's a Roman deal. So I'm just somebody that looked at it and said, wow, this makes a lot of sense to me. All right? If salvation was the end all and be all, well, then we would have been taken out of here. Then all these instructions about how do we get along with our fellow man, all you have to, listen, when you are not rested, okay, you're short-tempered, you're snippy, I don't care how wonderful and delightful and how sweet you are and all your spiritual gifts, you get tired, you get cranky.
Absolutely.
And this is not God's way of saying, I want you to sleep for 24 hours. I want you to rest in me and honor, honor it by setting aside a certain amount of time with me, whether or not that means going to church. You know, we're fond of saying that people need to be faithful in 3 areas: their tithe, their talent, and their time. And we know the tithe is 10% off the top. Okay? We know the talent is find your spiritual gifts and use them for the benefit of the congregation. Then we come to time. And every pastor and every ministry leader is going to say to you, and you got to be faithful to serve, serve, serve. And I say, that's not what that means.
Exactly.
That means I need to be faithful with my time, meaning I need to partition my time in such a manner as I am able to take care of my family and earn. I'm able to serve my congregation, and I am able to rest in the Lord and divide my time so that I'm faithful in what I give to God, what I give to my brothers and my sisters, and what I give to my family. And isn't that what we do when we do marital counseling? We say it's going to be God first, then your wife, then your children, then your job, then your congregation, and we tell you these things. Okay?
Right.
This is the order of priorities. But then we turn around and say, well, you need to serve more. You need to attend more. You need to give more. You need to do more. It's always
Right.
more, more, more. And what we really need is more rest.
Absolutely. That's, you know, the enemy is all about robbing. He first robs. And this area of rest has been, I think we're beginning to see the damage that's been done because of being robbed of rest in one way or another. And, we talked about rest for our body and rest for our emotions, but this rest for our minds is another. This is one of the biggies, that we are the ones who are the gatekeepers for our minds. We're the ones that have to take captive every thought to the obedience of Christ. And we think about taking thoughts captive sort of in that context, lies versus truth. But I think in this era and age of social media and media in general, whether it's newspapers, TV, whatever it is, we are being bombarded, saturated, attacked almost every moment of every day. And the studies are showing people are being impacted by one kind of media or another at least 11 hours a day. Now, that doesn't mean they're on their phone 11 hours. It just means everything coming to us from all these different directions 11 hours a day. And nobody is going to be the gatekeeper. Nobody is going to say, okay, turn it all off, Faith. We're going to turn off the broadcasts now so that you can rest your mind. They don't. They're going to go, if there were 8 days, they'd go 24/8. They go 24/7. And I'm the one that has to take the responsibility and take captive the time for this brain. And I can say, okay, I am shutting down, shutting off. And there's a woman, and her book hasn't come out, but her name is Tiffany Schlein. And her father was apparently a very famous brain surgeon, inventor. He wrote a book about Leonardo da Vinci's brain, which looks fascinating. But she has been recognized as one of the leading women affecting our society. She's won 80 awards. Her life is all about the media. She started an awards program that's called Webby, and every year they give awards to people who've impacted the web. So here's a woman, her life is dependent on being social media connected, and yet, she's Jewish, but this took place not because of her faith or anything, but because her dad developed brain cancer, and they wanted to spend time with him, and so they looked at their life as a family. And so what they did, one day a week, completely disconnected from all social media. Now, that to me is astounding for someone who her whole life is lived around, dependent on, and she shut it down. So she has a book coming out, and it's called 24/6, The Power of Unplugging One Day a Week. It comes out in September. And I am definitely going to be getting a copy of that. But, I can handle the idea of a Sabbath, and sort of no work and no clients and, all of this. But the thought of unplugging, she calls it a tech Shabbat. And I'll tell you, that strikes terror into me. Because, I mean, I just found out about her as I was preparing for this program. And, inside, it's like I'm trembling. I think, God, I can't do that. And so I'm praying into it because if she can do it, maybe I could do it. And, baby steps, but it was very challenging, convicting, because I think it took Sabbath to a whole nother level. And it took it to a level of where we are really being stressed by the amount of information that we're being bombarded with.
Well, it's overwhelming. And the people have an appetite which is insatiable, that they now have these resources available to them that they can become gluttonous. You can become information gluttons. You can become entertainment gluttons. You can become technology gluttons. And, anything that it takes us out of our natural balance, out of our natural rhythm, is not what God intends us to be, as He created a fine balance and a delicate balance, so that we eat properly, we sleep properly, we find activities which keep our bodies and our minds healthy. And when they are out of balance, then there's a toll. And the toll that we're finding is headaches and sleeplessness, and there's a lot of result from this technology overload. And we're certainly, we take advantage of it, but we even limit our programming to 3 hours of live programming a day, and we do 2 pre-recorded at night in teachings that I do in other locations. But we even limit it, and I get invitations all the time to do other programs and other programming, and could I do a remote broadcast and become the telepastor of a congregation that meets on Monday nights, and could I actually come into the studio and preach a message to them? And they're a global congregation, and globally they would plug into it. And I said, if we get to that point, then we've missed the forsaking of the assembly, a human contact, human touch. We should be scaling down, not scaling up. And I think that we're going to find in the next 10 years that there's going to be a dynamic change. There's a lot of mega congregations that are saying, you know what, we did this mega thing, we did this 24 campus thing, we did this 75,000 people in a weekend thing, and we're finding that they're not being fed, their lives aren't being transformed, and we're not able to meet the needs of a community that size. And all of a sudden, they're thinking maybe what we need to do is we need to do a lot more equipping, and there should be more courses, and we should be getting people together, as opposed to making it so easy to stay home and watch the podcast or watch the televised version. And that just then promotes isolation, and then that feeds to depression, and then you have lack of sleep, and the whole cycle starts again. And so it's very important that we keep and continue to bring new thought to this sleep and this rest concept, as we do with Faith Blatchford right here on Revealing the Truth on the last Monday of every month at 12 o'clock. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but you can visit her at thesleepproject.org and faithblatchford.com, and catch her here on the last Monday of every month for the Sleep Project, Better Nights for Better Days. Today's subject was rest, and you too can take advantage of a well-needed rest by continuing to weighing into what God is telling you and staying in His Word. He uses the word rest an awful lot, and He'll meet you right where you are when you take time out for Him in rest. Faith Blatchford, thank you so much for this hour with us here each month on Revealing the Truth. We will see you next month.
Yes, look forward to it.
God bless. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.